The Last Human. First discovery. Captain Zix Ara of the Galactic Trade Federation had seen many strange things during her 3 decades of service. She commanded the heavy cruiser Stellar Dominion, patrolling the Outer Rim territories where pirates and smugglers thought they could hide from Federation law. Her crew of mixed species, Kralix warriors with their 4 arms, nimble Veltar navigators, and sturdy Dorthak engineers, respected her tactical mind and quick decisions. But nothing had prepared her for what they found drifting in the debris field of the ancient Terran system. "Captain, we're picking up a faint energy signature from that wreckage," reported Lieutenant Kethvar, his reptilian eyes studying the scanner readings with confusion. "It's organic, definitely alive. But the biopatterns don't match any species in our database." Zixara leaned forward in her command chair, her blue-scaled fingers drumming against the armrest. The Terran system was supposed to be dead, had been dead for over 2 centuries. Everyone knew the story. Humanity had been the first species to achieve faster-than-light travel, but their aggressive expansion and refusal to join the growing galactic community had led to their downfall. The Great Coalition had finally united against them, and after a brutal war, every human world had been reduced to ash and radiation. At least, that's what the history books claimed. "Send a recovery team," she ordered. "Full hazmat protocols. If something survived out here for 200 years, I want to know what it is." The recovery took 6 hours. The object they brought aboard was unlike anything in Federation records. A primitive escape pod, barely held together by what appeared to be welded metal plates and emergency sealant. The life support systems were ancient, running on technologies that predated modern galactic civilization by centuries. Inside, they found him. The creature was bipedal, roughly 2 meters tall, with pale skin stretched over lean muscle. Its hair was dark and matted, and its face bore the kind of scars that spoke of violence and survival. When the medical bay's scanners finally identified the species, the entire bridge fell silent. "Human," Dr. Silthera whispered, her 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "This is a human male, approximately 30 standard years of age. Captain, this should be impossible." Zixara stared at the readings. According to every historical record, every scientific survey, every piece of evidence collected over the past 2 centuries, humanity was extinct. The Coalition had made certain of that. They had burned every world, destroyed every ship, hunted down every survivor until the galaxy was cleansed of the human threat. "Is he conscious?" she asked. "Barely. His body shows signs of extended hibernation, but he's beginning to wake up. Captain, his biometrics are unusual. His muscle density is twice what it should be for his frame, his bone structure is reinforced beyond normal human parameters, and his neural activity suggests enhanced cognitive functions." The human's eyes opened. They were the color of storm clouds, gray and dangerous, and when they focused on Zixara through the medical bay's observation window, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years: genuine fear. Not the tactical concern of facing a superior enemy fleet, but the primal terror of a prey animal looking into the eyes of an apex predator. "Where?" The human's voice was rough from years of disuse, but when he spoke, the universal translator picked up his words clearly. "Where are the others?" Dr. Silthera approached cautiously. "You were alone in the pod. Can you tell us your name?" The human sat up slowly, his movements precise despite his obvious weakness. "Marcus. Marcus Kane." His eyes swept the medical bay, taking in every detail, every potential weapon, every possible escape route. "What year is it?" "Standard Galactic Calendar 2847, Zixara replied through the intercom. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Then he laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. 237 years. I've been asleep for 237 years. "Mr. Kane," Zixara said carefully, According to our records, humanity was declared extinct over 2 centuries ago. You may be the last of your species. Marcus looked directly at her through the window, and his smile was like a blade being drawn from its sheath. Extinct? He stood up, his movements becoming more fluid as his body remembered its strength. Captain, whoever told you humans were extinct made a very serious mistake. The Coalition forces surveyed every human world. They found nothing but radiation and ash. The Coalition found exactly what we wanted them to find. Marcus began examining the medical equipment around him with the quick, efficient movements of someone who understood technology despite its alien origin. Tell me, Captain, in all your history books, did anyone ever mention the deep ships? Zixara exchanged glances with her crew. Deep ships? The contingency plan. When it became clear that the galaxy wouldn't let humanity exist peacefully, our leaders made a decision. They built ships unlike anything we'd shown the Coalition. Vessels designed to hide in the dark between stars, to survive in the void, to wait. Dr. Silthara stepped closer to the containment field. Wait for what? Marcus turned to face the observation window directly. For the galaxy to forget about humans. For the Coalition to become complacent. For the perfect moment to remind everyone why our species conquered half the known universe before you managed to stop us. The implications of his words settled over the bridge like ice water. Zixara's mind raced through the possibilities. If humans had somehow survived, if they had been hiding in the darkness for over 2 centuries, growing stronger, planning. You're lying, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Marcus pressed his hand against the containment field, and the energy barrier flickered. Not from any technology he possessed, but from the sheer force of will that seemed to radiate from him. Captain, I've been dreaming for 200 years. Do you know what humans dream about when they've lost everything? The bridge was silent. Revenge, Marcus said simply. We dream about coming home. Suddenly, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. Lieutenant Kethvar spun to his console, his scales paling as he read the incoming data. Captain, ships emerging from hyperspace, multiple contacts, unknown configuration. Zixara rushed to the main display. The tactical screen showed vessels unlike anything in Federation databases, sleek, angular ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their hulls bore no markings, no identification, but their formation and approach vector spoke of military precision. Incoming transmission, reported the communications officer. On screen. The face that appeared on the main display was human, but changed. The woman's features were sharp and angular, her skin pale as starlight, and her eyes held the cold intelligence of someone who had spent centuries planning for this moment. Behind her, Zixara could see the bridge of a warship that combined human engineering with technologies she didn't recognize. Captain Zixara of the Federation vessel, Stellar Dominion, the woman said, her voice carrying the authority of absolute command. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Deep Fleet. You have something that belongs to us. Marcus was no longer trying to escape the medical bay. Instead, he was standing perfectly still, a smile spreading across his face as he listened to the transmission. Return Commander Kane to us immediately, and your crew will be allowed to live long enough to carry a message back to your Federation. Zixara found her voice. And what message would that be? Admiral Chen's smile was colder than the void between stars. Tell them that humanity remembers every world they burned. Tell them that we remember every ship they destroyed, every colony they massacred, every child they murdered in the name of galactic peace. The Deep Fleet vessels moved closer, their weapons charging with energies that made Zixara's tactical officer take an involuntary step backward from his console. Tell them, Admiral Chen continued, that the age of Coalition dominance is over. Humanity has returned, and this time, we're not interested in joining your galactic community." Marcus spoke from the medical bay, his voice carrying clearly through the ship's internal communications. "We're interested in ruling it." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Outside, the deep fleet ships waited, their dark hulls patient as hunting predators. In the medical bay, Marcus Kane stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking for all the world like a man who had just come home from a very long journey. Zixara stared at the tactical display, watching as more ships emerged from hyperspace. The readings were impossible. The fleet was massive, numbering in the thousands, and every vessel radiated power signatures that dwarfed anything the Federation had ever built. "Captain," Dr. Silthera whispered, "what do we do?" Zixara looked at Marcus through the observation window. He was watching her now, waiting to see what choice she would make. His expression was patient but determined, and she realized with growing horror that this had all been planned. His discovery, his awakening, even this confrontation. It was all part of something much larger. "We prepare to transfer our prisoner," she said quietly. "Captain," Lieutenant Kethvar turned from his station. "We could fight. The Stellar Dominion has full weapons and shields." Marcus laughed softly from the medical bay. "Captain, show your tactical officer the fleet composition analysis." Despite herself, Zixara nodded to Kethvar. The lieutenant's face went pale as the true scope of the deep fleet became clear on his screens. 2,000 ships, Kethvar whispered. "Dreadnoughts, carriers, vessels we don't have classifications for. Captain, they could destroy half the Federation fleet." "They could," Marcus agreed. "But they won't. Not yet. We need you alive to deliver our message, remember?" The transport request came through official channels, properly formatted and absolutely non-negotiable. As Zixara watched the shuttle bay doors open and a sleek human transport enter her ship, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was witnessing the beginning of something terrible. Marcus walked to the transport without restraints, without guards, his head held high like a king returning to his throne. Before he boarded, he turned back to Zixara one last time. "Captain, when you deliver Admiral Chen's message, make sure they understand something important. We didn't survive the Coalition's genocide by accident. We survived because we learned to be harder, smarter, and more ruthless than any species in the galaxy." He paused at the transport's entrance. "The humans you fought 200 years ago? They were the peaceful ones, the ones who believed in coexistence and diplomacy." His smile was sharp enough to cut. "Those humans are dead. What you're dealing with now is what you created when you tried to exterminate us." The transport sealed, launched, and disappeared into the waiting fleet. Within minutes, the deep fleet ships began folding space around them, preparing to jump to hyperspace. Zixara stood on her bridge, staring at the empty space where humanity's revenge had just revealed itself to the galaxy. She thought about the message she would have to deliver, about the panic that would spread through Federation space when the news reached the capital worlds. For 2 centuries, the galaxy had lived in peace, believing that humanity's threat had been eliminated forever. Now, she had to tell them that their greatest nightmare had been hiding in the dark, growing stronger, and preparing to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. The last transmission from Admiral Chen's flagship was brief. "Tell them we're coming home, Captain. Tell them to prepare." As the deep fleet vanished into hyperspace, Zixara began composing the Ari the Awakening Storm. Second Contact. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council had been called within hours of receiving Captain Zixara's report. Representatives from 43 species packed the Great Chamber on Centralis Prime, their varied forms creating a tapestry of alien diversity that had taken centuries to achieve. Chancellor Mordek, the ancient ethereal who had guided the Federation for over 300 years, floated at the center of the assembly, his translucent form shimmering with barely contained energy. "This cannot be accurate," declared Ambassador Thrain of the Dorthak hegemony, his massive frame shaking with indignation. "My people's historical archives are precise. We participated in the final cleansing of the Terran worlds ourselves. Every human settlement was reduced to molecular ash." Captain Zixara stood at the witness podium, her blue scales dulled with exhaustion. She had made the journey to Centralis in record time, pushing her ship's engines beyond safe parameters. The weight of what she had witnessed pressed down on her like a physical force. "Ambassador Thrain, I can only report what I observed. The human fleet numbered in the thousands. Their technology appeared to be centuries ahead of our own, and their leader spoke as if this return had been planned for generations." Senator Velnara of the Trade Consortium leaned forward, her multiple eyes focused intently on Zixara. "You mentioned the human prisoner, this Marcus Kane, spoke of deep ships. Our intelligence networks have no record of such vessels." "Because you weren't supposed to know about them," said a new voice from the chamber's entrance. The assembled representatives turned as one to see a figure that should not have been able to enter the most secure building in Federation space. The human walked with casual confidence down the central aisle, ignoring the weapons that were suddenly trained on him from every direction. He was tall, perhaps 40 standard years in age, with silver threading through dark hair and scars that spoke of violence survived. "I am Colonel David Harrison, representing the interests of the Terran Deep Fleet." His voice carried clearly through the chamber without any amplification. "And I'm here to discuss terms." Chancellor Mordek's form blazed brighter. "Security! How did this creature enter our chambers?" Harrison smiled and touched a small device on his wrist. Throughout the chamber, holographic displays materialized, showing real-time feeds from dozens of Federation worlds. Each display showed the same thing: dark ships emerging from hyperspace, taking position in high orbit around major population centers. "Your security is adequate for dealing with conventional threats," Harrison said calmly. "But humanity stopped being conventional about 2 centuries ago." The holographic displays shifted, showing detailed scans of the human vessels. The readings made several representatives gasp in shock. The ships weren't just technologically advanced, they were impossibly advanced, utilizing energy sources and materials that Federation science couldn't even identify. "How?" whispered Dr. Kelthor, the ethereal scientific advisor. "Our projections showed that human technology was approximately equivalent to early Federation standard." "Your projections were based on what we allowed you to see," Harrison replied. "During the war, we deliberately held back our most advanced research. We knew that revealing our true capabilities would only result in an even more determined effort to exterminate us." He walked closer to the center of the chamber, and Zixara noticed that none of the security forces were moving to intercept him. Their weapons were trained on him, but something in his posture, some invisible threat he projected, kept them frozen in place. When it became clear that the galaxy would never accept human independence, our leadership made a difficult decision. We would allow the coalition to believe they had won, while our best and brightest disappeared into the deep void, taking with them everything we had learned about war, technology, and survival. Ambassador Thrain's voice boomed across the chamber. "You speak of survival, human, but your species was guilty of countless atrocities. The expansion wars, the forced colonizations, the desperate actions of a young species trying to find its place in a galaxy that wanted us dead from the moment we achieved interstellar flight," Harrison interrupted. "Yes, we made mistakes. Yes, we were aggressive. But we were also surrounded by species that viewed us as either threats to be eliminated or resources to be exploited." The holographic displays changed again, showing historical records that made several representatives shift uncomfortably. Documents detailing pre-war trade agreements that heavily favored alien species. Military intelligence reports discussing the human problem. secret communications between coalition leaders about the need to contain human expansion before it becomes uncontrollable. We found these in your own archives during our reconnaissance operations, Harrison continued. It seems the decision to destroy humanity was made long before we fired our first aggressive shot. Chancellor Mordek's form pulsed with angry energy. This is irrelevant. The past cannot be changed. What matters now is that your presence threatens the peace we have built. The peace you built on our graves, Harrison said quietly, and the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Tell me, Chancellor, how many species have been pacified by the Federation since humanity's extinction? How many aggressive civilizations have been diplomatically encouraged to moderate their expansion? The silence that followed was answer enough. Senator Velnara spoke carefully. What do you want, Colonel Harrison? Initially, we wanted justice, reparations for the worlds you destroyed, punishment for those responsible for genocide, recognition of our right to exist as a sovereign species. Harrison's expression hardened. But that was 50 years ago, when the first deep ships reached operational status, and we still believed in the possibility of peaceful resolution. And now? Now we want what we've always wanted. A place in the galaxy where humans can live and grow without fearing extermination. He gestured to the holographic displays. The difference is that we're no longer asking for permission. The implications of his words rippled through the chamber. Species that had fought for centuries to achieve Federation membership, that had modified their cultures and governments to meet Federation standards, that had accepted secondary status in exchange for protection, suddenly faced the possibility that all of it might have been built on a lie. You cannot seriously believe that you can challenge the entire Federation, Ambassador Thrain declared. Our combined fleets number in the hundreds of thousands. Harrison's smile was cold and predatory. Ambassador, let me share something we learned during our centuries in the void. When you're outnumbered 1,000 to 1, conventional military thinking becomes not just useless, but actively harmful. New holographic displays materialized, showing star charts of Federation space. Red markers appeared at strategic locations, trade routes, communication relays, industrial centers, military academies. While you've been maintaining peace through overwhelming numbers and diplomatic pressure, we've been studying your weaknesses. Your trade networks are completely dependent on predictable shipping schedules. Your communication systems rely on quantum relays that can be disrupted by properly calibrated gravitational fields. Your industrial capacity is concentrated on a handful of heavily defended worlds that couldn't survive a sustained siege. Dr. Kelthor leaned forward, his ethereal form flickering with nervous energy. You're describing the complete collapse of galactic civilization. We're describing the end of the current order, Harrison corrected. What comes next depends on how reasonably you respond to our proposals. Chancellor Mordek's voice carried the weight of ancient authority. And what proposals would those be? Harrison touched his wrist device again, and the holographic displays showed detailed political maps. The Federation will be dissolved. Species that wish to maintain their current governments and territories may do so, provided they acknowledge human sovereignty over our historical claims. Those that prefer to integrate into the new human-led galactic order will be given opportunities for favorable relationships. The chamber erupted in outraged voices. Representatives shouted denials, threats, and demands in a dozen different languages. Through it all, Harrison stood calmly in the center, waiting for the noise to die down. "You're insane," Senator Velnara finally declared. "The logistics alone have been planned for over 2 centuries, Harrison interrupted. Every trade route mapped, every military installation cataloged, every political alliance analyzed. We've had agents in your governments, your military forces, your research institutions. Colonel Kane wasn't the only survivor you found, Captain Zixara. He was simply the only one you were supposed to find. Zixara felt a chill run down her spine. How many others? Enough. Harrison's expression suggested that the exact number would terrify her. We've been watching, learning, preparing. Every Federation advance in technology has been studied and improved upon. Every military strategy has been analyzed and countered. Every potential resistance movement has been identified and either neutralized or recruited. The holographic displays showed footage of humans working in Federation facilities. Technicians who had been there for decades, researchers whose credentials were unquestioned, military advisors who had helped plan defensive strategies that would now be used against their own creators. "This is impossible," Ambassador Thrain growled. "Our security screening was designed to catch conventional infiltrators," Harrison finished. "Not humans who were genetically altered to match your species' biopatterns, equipped with technology you couldn't detect, and trained from birth for deep cover operations." The scope of the deception was staggering. For generations, humanity had been playing a game whose rules the Federation had never understood. While the galaxy celebrated its victory and built its peace, humans had been laying the groundwork for a return that would reshape everything. Chancellor Mordek's form blazed with desperate energy. "Even if what you claim is true, the Federation has safeguards, emergency protocols that can— The emergency protocols are currently being implemented by Admiral Chen's fleet," Harrison said calmly. "Your military commanders received sealed orders 3 hours ago, transmitted through your own secure channels, ordering them to stand down and await further instructions." Dr. Kelthor's form went pale. "The authorization codes were provided by humans who have been working in your command structure for the past 30 years. Harrison's smile was absolutely without warmth. "Doctors, the Federation isn't being conquered. It's being transformed from the inside out by people who understand its systems better than you do." The reality of the situation settled over the chamber like a suffocating blanket. The Federation, the greatest political achievement in galactic history, had been infiltrated so completely that it was already effectively under human control. The fleets, the communication networks, the very government itself, all of it had been compromised. "You have 6 hours to consider our proposals," Harrison announced. "After that, the transformation begins whether you cooperate or not." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Chancellor, you might want to check on the status of your personal guard. I believe you'll find that they've been human agents for quite some time." As Harrison walked toward the chamber's exit, the representatives sat in stunned silence. The holographic displays continued showing Federation worlds where human ships waited in orbit, patient as hunting predators. Captain Zixara stared at the displays, remembering Marcus Kane's words about the peaceful humans being dead. Now she understood what had replaced them, a species that had learned to hide in plain sight, to corrupt systems from within, to wage war through patience and perfect planning rather than brute force. The Federation had believed it had eliminated the human threat through its empire's dawn. The New Order. 3 months after the Federation Council's emergency session, Captain Zixara stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above Centralis Prime, watching the transformation of everything she had once believed in. The massive Federation complex below had been converted into the administrative center of the Terran Galactic Empire, its crystalline spires now flying banners that bore the stark symbol of human authority, a clenched fist holding 3 stars. The transition had been swift and surprisingly bloodless. True to Colonel Harrison's words, resistance had been minimal. How could you fight an enemy that controlled your communication systems, commanded your military forces, and had spent generations learning every weakness in your society? Remarkable view, isn't it? Zixara turned to see Admiral Chen approaching, her pale features serene as she gazed down at the planet. The woman who had once led humanity's hidden fleet now wore the uniform of the Imperial High Command, its black fabric adorned with silver insignia that spoke of absolute authority. I preferred it when it was the Federation capital, Zixara replied carefully. Chen smiled, but there was no malice in her expression. The Federation was built on the ashes of my people, Captain. I find it poetic that the Empire should rise from its ruins. Around them, the station buzzed with activity. Human administrators worked alongside alien specialists, former Federation officials who had adapted to the new reality with varying degrees of enthusiasm. The integration had been carefully managed. Those who cooperated were given meaningful roles in the new government, while those who resisted found themselves relocated to less influential positions. How? Zixara asked. How did you plan something this comprehensive? The logistics alone. Time, Chen replied simply. We had centuries to think, to plan, to prepare. While your people celebrated their victory and enjoyed their peace, we were learning patience. She gestured toward the planet below. Every human child born in the deep ships was educated about this day. Every technology developed was tested against this goal. Every decision made was evaluated based on how it would serve our return. Through the observation window, they could see the massive construction projects taking shape in orbit around Centralis Prime. New shipyards, equipped with technology that made Federation engineering look primitive. Military academies where the next generation of Imperial officers would be trained. Research facilities where human scientists worked alongside alien colleagues to push the boundaries of what was possible. The species that joined willingly are already seeing benefits, Chen continued. Enhanced technology, improved trade relationships, protection from external threats. The Veltar Confederation, for example, has seen their shipping capacity increase by 300% since integrating with our logistics networks. Zixara had heard the reports. The transformation wasn't just political, it was technological and economic. Human science, refined over centuries of hidden research, was revolutionizing everything from faster-than-light travel to planetary agriculture. Species that had initially resisted were now requesting integration as they watched their neighbors prosper under Imperial protection. And those who still refuse? Chen's expression hardened slightly. Are learning that the Empire can be generous to friends and implacable to enemies. The door to the observation deck opened, and Marcus Kane entered. The man Zixara had first encountered as a seemingly helpless survivor now wore the uniform of Imperial Special Operations, his lean frame moving with the controlled grace of someone who had been genetically enhanced for combat effectiveness. "Admiral," he said, nodding respectfully to Chen. "The Thrakari Dominion has formally requested membership in the Empire. Their Senate voted unanimously after reviewing our technology-sharing proposals." "Excellent," Chen replied. "That makes 37 species who have voluntarily joined us. What about the holdouts?" "The Dorthak hegemony is still refusing all communication. Ambassador Thrain has declared that his people will never submit to human rule." Marcus's smile was sharp. "Their military is currently discovering how effective their defenses are against temporal disruption weaponry." Zixara felt a chill run down her spine. Temporal disruption? "One of our more interesting developments during the exile years," Chen explained casually. "The ability to selectively accelerate or decelerate time within localized fields, quite useful for bypassing conventional defenses. A shield that would normally deflect energy weapons becomes useless when the weapons are fired from a different temporal frame." The implications were staggering. If humanity possessed technology that could manipulate time itself, then conventional military resistance was not just futile, it was impossible. "The Dorthak fleet engaged our ships at the Kepler terminus yesterday," Marcus continued. 300 heavy cruisers, their most advanced technology, supported by orbital defense platforms that took them 50 years to build. And the battle lasted 14 seconds local time. Their weapons couldn't target vessels moving in accelerated temporal fields. while our return fire struck their ships before their defensive systems could even register the threat. Marcus's expression showed no satisfaction at the slaughter. We offered them surrender terms. They chose to fight. Chen turned from the window. The galaxy is learning that the rules have changed, Captain Zixara. The old Federation model, peace through collective weakness, stability through mutual fear, only worked because humanity wasn't part of the equation. And your model? Peace through strength, stability through effective leadership, progress through the rational application of superior technology. Chen's eyes held the cold certainty of someone who had never doubted their cause. The Empire will bring order to a galaxy that has been stagnating for centuries. As if summoned by their conversation, the communication system activated, displaying a holographic map of local galactic space. Red markers indicated human fleets, blue showed integrated species, and yellow marked territories still in negotiation. The red was spreading with mechanical inevitability. "The Krill Assembly has surrendered," reported the voice of Colonel Harrison from the command center. "Their homeworld experienced a demonstration of our geological modification capabilities. Apparently, watching 3 of their moons get relocated to different orbits was quite persuasive." Zixara stared at the display. "You're destroying entire civilizations." "We're encouraging them to make rational choices," Chen corrected. "Every species we've contacted has been given the same options: voluntary integration with full autonomy over internal affairs, or forced compliance with significantly reduced sovereignty. Most are choosing integration once they understand the alternatives." The holographic display shifted to show detailed readouts from various worlds. Agricultural output was increasing dramatically on planets that had received human biotechnology. Industrial capacity was soaring where human engineering had been implemented. Even art and culture were flourishing as species discovered new forms of expression made possible by imperial technology. "But it's not their choice anymore," Zixara protested. "You're forcing progress on them." Marcus spoke up. "Captain, I've studied the Federation's history extensively. In the past 500 years, how many significant technological advances has your government produced? How many social problems has it solved? How many species has it actually helped achieve their full potential?" The question hung in the air, uncomfortable in its implications. The Federation had been stable, peaceful, and prosperous, but it had also been static. Innovation was discouraged in favor of maintaining balance. Ambitious species were contained rather than encouraged. The entire system was designed to prevent the kind of rapid advancement that might upset the careful equilibrium. "The Federation prevented wars," Zixara said weakly. "The Federation prevented progress," Chen replied. "Do you know what the human population was when we went into exile? 12 billion across 200 worlds. Do you know what it is now?" Zixara shook her head. 400 billion, spread across 6,000 hidden settlements. We didn't just survive, Captain. We thrived. We grew and learned and advanced while the rest of the galaxy remained frozen in place. Chen's voice carried the pride of a species that had turned near extinction into ultimate victory. "Now we're sharing that growth with everyone else, whether they want it or not." The communication system activated again, this time showing a live feed from the former Federation Council chambers. The Great Assembly Hall had been converted into the Imperial Senate, with representatives from every species that had joined the Empire. At the center, where Chancellor Mordek had once floated in ethereal majesty, a human figure sat on a throne of polished metal and crystal. "Empress Victoria Constantine," Chen said with evident respect as the image focused on the woman who now ruled the galaxy. "The first democratically elected leader of a unified galactic government." Zixara studied the Empress's face. She was perhaps 60 years old, with silver hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She wore no crown, no symbols of mystical authority, just the practical uniform of someone who had work to do. Democratically elected? Zixara asked. Every species in the Empire was allowed to vote, Marcus confirmed. Full citizenship, full representation, one being one vote regardless of species or origin. The Empress won by a margin of 14 billion votes. But only after you'd already conquered them. Only after we'd demonstrated that human leadership could deliver results they hadn't seen under the Federation, Chen corrected. Economic prosperity, technological advancement, or effective protection from external threats. Democracy only works when people can make informed choices. On the screen, Empress Constantine was addressing the Imperial Senate, outlining plans for the next phase of galactic expansion. Beyond the former Federation borders lay dozens of other political entities, competing empires, isolated species, nomadic fleets that had never accepted any central authority. The galaxy is vast, the Empress was saying, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. For too long, it has been divided by fear, suspicion, and the belief that different species cannot work together effectively. The Empire will prove that cooperation based on shared prosperity is superior to competition based on mutual destruction. A representative from the Veltar Confederation raised a multi-jointed appendage. Empress, what of the species who refuse all contact? The Void Wanderers, the Machine Collectives, the entities beyond the galactic rim? Constantine's smile was confident without being arrogant. They will be approached with the same offers we've made to everyone else. Those who wish to join us will be welcomed. Those who prefer independence will be respected, provided they don't threaten Imperial citizens. Those who choose hostility, she shrugged, will discover why that choice is inadvisable. The transmission ended, leaving the observation deck in silence. Through the window, Zixara could see the construction projects continuing, the steady growth of an empire that was reshaping galactic civilization with mechanical inevitability. What happens to people like me? She asked finally. Federation officers who can't accept this new reality? Chen turned to face her fully. That depends on you, Captain. Your record shows exceptional tactical skill and natural leadership ability. The Imperial Navy could use officers with your experience. And if I refuse? Then you'll be provided with a comfortable retirement on any world of your choosing, along with a pension that will ensure your security for the rest of your natural life. Chen's expression was genuinely sympathetic. We're not monsters, Captain. We're just practical. Marcus stepped closer. The old galaxy is dead, Captain Zixara. The Federation, the Coalition, the balance of power that kept everyone afraid and weak, all of it is finished. You can mourn its passing, or you can help us build something better. Through the observation window, a new ship was rising from the orbital shipyards. It was larger than anything the Federation had ever built, its hull gleaming with technologies that seemed to bend light itself. On its side, in multiple languages and scripts, was inscribed its name, Human Ascendant. The Empire isn't just about human dominance, Chen said quietly. It's about human leadership guiding galactic civilization toward its full potential. Every species that joins us becomes stronger. Every world that accepts Imperial technology becomes more prosperous. Every citizen who embraces the new order discovers opportunities they never imagined. Zixara thought about her crew, about the Federation worlds that were already reporting unprecedented prosperity under Imperial administration, about the choice between clinging to a past that was gone forever or embracing a future that promised everything her people had ever wanted. What would my duties be? She asked. Chen's smile was warm and welcoming. We're planning an expedition beyond the galactic rim to make contact with civilizations that have never known interstellar government. We need experienced commanders who understand both military operations and diplomatic protocols. To conquer them? To offer them the choice, Marcus corrected. The same choice we've offered everyone else. Join us voluntarily and prosper, or resist and face the consequences of that decision. Zixara looked out at the growing fleet, at the construction projects that would transform the galaxy, at the symbol of human authority that now flew over a capital world where dozens of species worked together toward common goals. The Federation had promised peace and delivered stagnation. The Empire promised progress and had already begun delivering it. "When do I start?" she asked. Admiral Chen placed a hand on her shoulder, a gesture of welcome from one professional to another. "As soon as you're ready, Captain. The galaxy is vast, and there's so much work to be done." As they left the observation deck together, Zixara looked back one last time at the view of Centralis Prime. The planet looked different now, not conquered, but transformed, renewed, ready for a future that would be shaped by human ambition and alien cooperation working together. The age of human extinction was indeed over. The age of human empire had begun, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was moving forward again. The humans had remembered, they had returned, and they had kept their promise to shatter the old order and build something new in its place. Now, with their victory complete and their empire growing, they were ready to carry that transformation to the furthest reaches of the galaxy, whether the rest of the universe was ready for them or not. Superior numbers and overwhelming violence. Instead, it had created something far more dangerous, an enemy that understood the value of time, the power of preparation, and the weakness of overconfidence. As the emergency session dissolved into chaos, Harrison's final words echoed through the chamber. "Welcome to the new galactic order. Try not to resist too much. We really prefer to rule through cooperation rather than fear." But his smile suggested that fear was an option he was perfectly willing to explore, port that would shatter the galaxy's sense of security. She tried to imagine how the Federation Council would react to the news that humanity had returned, but her mind kept returning to Marcus Kane's final words. The peaceful humans were dead. What remained was something far more dangerous, a species that had been forged in the fires of genocide and shaped by centuries of careful planning. They had survived the unthinkable, and now they were coming to collect the debt the galaxy owed them. The age of human extinction was over. The age of human dominance was about to begin.